Well, starting this interview, it's a great pleasure to talk with you. Welcome to everyone to this Dargetti website pages, man. Really, it's a nice to talk about Replicant and this new monster, Malignant Reality. What this one wonderful release this year because I listened entirely and really blow my mind, man. Really. So
Thanks, man.
after
Thank you.
yeah. After 3 years since your first album, Negative Relative. So that's very nice music. So tell us, what are your influence of the band for this album, and how was the recording and composition process for this album? Because we are in a pandemic, perhaps you have troubled with lockdowns, with the quarantines, this kind of stuff to record this, or perhaps was it before?
Well, we started writing a little bit of the songs before the pandemic with the intention of writing an album. James joined the band in 2019, right before the pandemic. So then we started working on some stuff, and then that happened. And then we were just like, let's just roll on and keep writing the album and just take advantage of this time. This album was like in contrast to our first one, Negative Life. It was we wanted to be more precision focused and more just like a direct attack kind of like sound, whereas the other one was a little bit more loose and a more like, you know, atmospheric. This one we wanted to keep like the atmosphere, but wanted to have like more like moshy sounding stuff, more groove and mosh in it. So yeah, that was like our intention. I mean, like as far as influences go, we're all like collectively influenced. Like the sound of the band is like kind of like mixing like that Demolich Finnish death metal style with a little bit of Canadian death metal like Gorguts and Negativa and Cryptopsy, and a lot of our own like New Jersey homegrown influences like Burnt by the Sun and Ripping Corpse and Human Remains. And we all have our own individual influences as well. We all listen to a lot of different stuff. So
Nice. So I've been listening your new album, Malignant Reality, many times, and I love it. As I said in the previous question, in many ways I love it because I love this kind of dissonant, a little technical elements. So I love them in the progress. So a little progressive elements into there. So is this kind of experimentation what was you wanted, or perhaps what is that mix when you are jamming or flows naturally in a session or rehearsal?
Well, I think
it flows pretty naturally because like Mike said in the beginning, we didn't really get to rehearse a lot for the album because we had maybe one or two songs kind of written before like going into 2020, and then as soon as, you know, COVID kind of hit and everything started locking down, like we never really got to meet up again. So we kind of wrote all the rest of the songs in like isolation, you know, but since we've been Mike and I have been in the band the whole time, and we've always you know, had an idea of what we wanted the records to sound like. So we had talked a lot conceptually about like what we wanted to do with this album. So we kind of just took that and, you know, the first two songs that we wrote, and we kind of used them as like the blueprint for the rest of the album.
Okay. So Replicant is a new band into the extreme metal worldwide because you have 7 years into this kind of music. So where you have two albums, the first one was released by PRC Music, and this one will release it by Transcend Obscurity Records, the label from Kunal in India. So how was PRC worked with you in the past, and what do you expect for the work from Kunal with Transcending?
Well, working with PRC was awesome. Remy Cote, who owned and ran the label, is an amazing guy, very supportive, you know, loved all the bands he worked with. He was very involved with everything, and just like an overall, just really great to work with. So we did our first album with him, and the first EP we did also Worthless Desires, which came out I think in 2016. And then so Remy was he started to kind of close the label down because he's a little older and he's just kind of, I think, ready to call it a day. So luckily around the same time, Kunal had actually reached out to us via, I think it was just a Facebook message, and he was like really, he really liked the first album. He was interested in working together. So it just kind of worked out perfectly. The timing worked out perfectly. So, we talked to Kanal. We were really psyched about it. We love a lot of the bands on Transcending Obscurity. So we thought it was a really good fit for us. Yeah, so it's been great so far. I mean, he's really easy to work with, really nice guy, very, very, really, really puts a lot. He puts, really dedicated, and he puts a lot into the packaging and the presentation of an album. So we're like really excited on how everything's coming out.
Okay. Into your two albums, Negative Life has a cover did by Dan Rivera, and this new one was doing by Ellie Total. So, but both covers cover arts has abstract images, elements different, but because I try to find some face for some human face like everyone. But into this world you have a lot of dark and gloomy elements into both cover art. So how was the process of creating of the cover arts with Replicant albums? And do the artist do his work, or perhaps you have a mixture of ideas? You said, so hi Ellie, I want to add this, or perhaps he's by yourself, no?
So the first one for Negative Life, Dan, he's actually a really close friend of ours.
Okay.
He's actually a lot of his, he actually did all these paintings in advance, and how these paintings, and he was actually originally intended to be the bass player in the band with us when Pete and I first started. Dan had these paintings that were super sick, super weird looking. We're just like, hey man, can we use that as part of our album cover? He actually did. We had Dystrophy, Pete's other band, actually borrowed his work for Wretched Host, an album that came out on what was the record?
Self-Made God.
On Self-Made God Records, like in 2015. So then we used Dan again for Negative Life, and then the one with Ali, the new Malignant Reality album cover, we kind of like gave her the lyrics that we're working with, and kind of like a vague concept of kind of like that kind of just goes around like the feeling and the vibe behind the lyrics, and she went with that. And if you look closely, there is a semblance of a human face in there, and that was intentional, but the rest is kind of like intentionally also ghostly, and kind of just like in your kind of like whatever you want it to be.
Okay, if we speak about the lyrics of this new album, how will you try to say it in this album? Because I just read the name of the songs, and I try to relate with darkness, with obscurity, this kind of stuff. But it's much better that you explain this. What can you feel when you read these lyrics?
So in terms of like approaching the lyrics, it's always the darkest and most self-loathing place you could find. I mean, like, it's just trying to paint a picture with the words. It's usually not like, it's not really narrative based. It's more just abstract.
Yes,
and
yes.
Just kind of like creating a landscape with the lyrics of just pure, like, just darkness and misery. And that's really just the approach. And just, yeah, I mean, it's kind of heavy, but it's always try to make it like, I try to make the lyrics kind of like the riff, trying to go with the riff.
So, so with this matter, do you create first the lyrics, or perhaps do you create first the music, or perhaps at the same time they merge together and create the song? What are the best way to do the song?
So it's a little mix of both. A lot of the songs that we have were actually just start off with working titles, and it's just a concept, and then sometimes the title sticks, and then from there the lyrics kind of like form. But usually the lyrics are the last thing written, and they go with the riff, and it's just kind of like I try to go with the syllables and try to like follow along with how I imagine the vocals over it, and then from there the words kind of like are structured and like kind of sculpting words out of that.
So Now we will talk about one thing that I've been seeing during the list during this 10 years, because the extreme metal worldwide, it is denoted that its style is one of continues to grow to grow more and more with new expressions that have nothing to do with the music from the 80s and 90s. As you can see, when I hear Replicant, I hear bands like you said, like Demilik, like Gorguts, like Time Gold in some parts. So, but mm, I try to focus what album, what song you hear a lot to create this new monster. But you are far away from Morbid Angel, from this kind of stuff. Even you have this influence. So why the string music is keeps continue to grow up with more expressions, with more creativity than all the styles. And all the styles I said, like heavy metal, power metal, thrash metal, speed metal. Because if you hear a band from like, for example, from Germany, Bolter's speed thrash metal from there, and they love to do like speed like Angel Witch did in the 70s. So, but you a replicant for 2020, and if I try to compare with the bands from the past, I can compare, because you are new, you have new elements, you are more dissonant sounds, you are more and more.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
That means a lot to hear. I mean, we love a lot of the old stuff. I mean, we all love Angel Witch. So we love power metal, we love speed metal, we love all kinds of stuff. I mean,
I think kind of like getting to the idea of like why it keeps sounding different is because this style of music, extreme music, is about pushing the envelope, right? So for a couple of years, I feel like the envelope moves in one direction, where a couple of years ago it was speed, and you have some phenomenal bands that were really pushing it in terms of like Origin, right?
Yeah.
Phenomenal. And then it goes the other direction, where you have groups like Gorguts, who were pushing in a more dissonant direction, both of which with John Longstreth on drums, which is awesome. Yeah. But that to me is, I think, one of the reasons why it feels different, because it's just the idea of the envelope is going to move in a different direction than what we've seen in the last few years. At least that's what I think.
Yeah. I think a lot of extreme metal kind of like you said, like has a lot of progressive tendencies and is progressive by nature. So like by that definition, it's like the musicians who are kind of drawn to that style of music always want to do something a little different, right? They don't want to just stick to like a formula or like rehash things from the past. So it is nice, like, now, and like, where there's literally, you can listen to any kind of song you want at any time. You really can just kind of draw like all these other outside influences, and like maybe make these connections where like, someone might not have been able to in the past because they didn't even know this kind of music existed. And now you can kind of bring all these ideas together and make something a little different, right? And then like kind of start running with that, and then kind of carve out your own little niche, as opposed to being like, okay, like let's just do like a cool like power metal band that sounds like a Blind Guardian or something.
Yeah. I mean, like adding to that, it's just like, in terms of like us personally, we're as cliche as it sounds sometimes, we're just writing the music that we want to hear.
Yeah.
So it's like we're influenced by a lot of stuff. So it's like we're all influenced. I mean, like me personally, and I know Pete, and I mean, I don't know as far as James' extent, but we're influenced by hardcore music as well. Just like Marauder was a big influence on this album for us from New York. Even bands like Leeway and like Biohazard and all that stuff. And just like we also play a lot of shows in Jersey with hardcore bands. So, and power violence bands. I mean, like this scene around here is full of that type of music. So I mean, it kind of like is like we also try to play things that would be like fun for us to watch live as well. So
Okay. So as I can see now, US has a lot of bands into this kind of stuff, especially with abstract things, with dissonance. I think it's new wave of string music, because if we try to relate, it's like bands like you, like Yoho, Folim, Seputus, Piron, Imperial Tryphon, Ad Nauseam, and many more, especially in the US. they has a personal sound, really, really. So do you think this can be talk about the new generation of extreme music with dissonant, technical, and perhaps noisy elements now into the extreme music in US?
Yeah, I mean, they're both looking at me because that's like I love like all those bands that you mentioned, especially Piran and Sepitus. So we go back with those two bands like a long way. Like I've known all those guys for a long time, as is Mike. We've done some tours with Piran. I actually played on the Sepitus. I did a guest solo on the Sepitus record that came out last month. But yeah, I mean, I think. Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of bands in this area. Again, like, especially like New York City. New York City's always been
Yes,
kind of,
New York City is amazing.
yeah, but in order to kind of like stand out, or like do your own thing, like you need to kind of do your own thing, right? For people to kind of want to, interact with your band, at least like from maybe from like a show's perspective, not like maybe on the international kind of releases. But yeah, I mean, it's just a big thing here. Like, this kind of dissonant music has been around, I'd say, for like the last like 10 or 15 years almost. But now, again, a lot of bands are kind of incorporating it. It's like, the next kind of, I don't want to say it's like the next, it could be the next thing, who knows? But I mean, it is very off-putting, and it's sometimes hard for even people who love like death metal. It's like too much sometimes. It's too hard. It's too atonal.
Yeah.
There's nothing to really latch onto, and it's also, it just sounds disgusting. And sometimes it's just like, this is like making me feel like crazy.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to like the new Portal record, like with headphones on, you're just like, oh my god, my head's gonna explode. So it is awesome. And like we love all that kind of stuff. And again, like to Mike's point, it's like we wanted to have our own little spin on it, where it wasn't just like ultra dissonance with nothing else, right? It's like a little bit of noise, a little bit of like kind of like decapitated, groovy Pantera, and just kind of do something that's that's like not like too far in one direction, but like a mix of all the things that we all really love and want to hear.
And how do you see this strange side in the metal extreme in US for the next 10 years?
Yeah, I mean, it is cool that a lot of bands are kind of taking it and doing their own thing with it, right? So like even like a band like, like Piran doesn't really sound a lot like a band like Nightmare, like who are like ultra dissonant, right? And it's cool because there are, you can be your own thing if you're like an extremely dissonant band. So yeah, I mean, I just see like, again, like maybe other outside influences coming in, mixing it in with like other kinds of death metal, like maybe some like brutal dissonant death metal, or, bringing it into, again, like maybe, having a more like a Deathspell Omega kind of thing, or like an Ulcerate, but maybe again, like being a little more catchy, or even bringing in like another outside influence altogether. Yeah, I mean, the exciting thing is like there's so many bands doing so many cool things. And again, like now that none of us can play shows or do anything, it's like everyone's just like writing music. So I think in the next like maybe 2 to 3 years, especially, you're going to see a lot of really cool releases, and like kind of pushing the boundary in all different directions.
Okay. Well, the next question is, well, we will speak beyond fighting angry elements, dissonant sounds, horror situations into the music of this new album from Replicant. So, we will talk about the abstract topic such as a synesthesia matter. Maybe do you hear this subject, synesthesia? Synesthesia talks about the smells and flavors when you hear music. So how you describe the smell and flavors that the listeners will find in this new album from you? Because for me, there is an spicy element with juicy, with juicy tastes like blood, rotten blood. So, and the smell is like this part dissonance stinks like sulfur or mercaptan.
I get that.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, Michael.
I think I mean, the first thing I was gonna say was like kind of like sulfur, but I feel like more true to like where we're from. It smells like concrete and gas fumes, like exhaust.
Okay.
It smells like a really crowded summer line at a gas station. trying to fill up,
Yeah.
and then you're just smelling all that exhaust and
Trash.
people traffic, and it smells like trash. You're passing garbage
Heat.
and heat. It just smells like everything's sweaty
And disgusting.
Sweat, yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just gross and
Yeah.
yeah,
Because
miserable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The smell of misery, I guess.
Yeah, it's like the cover of the obituaries World Demise. It's just
Yeah.
like it's just like the fucking factories just pumping out smog, and it's just like literally like the gross World Demise. It's like that's like what we're pretty much
Yeah.
surrounds us.
Damn
Yeah.
fumes from Staten Island.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trash.
Yeah, about the taste, about the taste, about
Taste.
taste. Well, that's very difficult because I spoke 1 hour before with Orphan Donor, and he told me that the music is like in a coffee, like a couple of coffees. When you hear, you will drink a good cup of coffee. So
Yeah.
for you,
Yeah, we're not
music
that
of this-
refined.
I guess I don't want to like if I want to like say what I feel is like, oh, it tastes like shit, but that's like shitting on our music. I don't want to shit on our music, so
Right.
Good.
we like coffee.
The coffee's
I mean,
good.
I love coffee.
I don't think we're coffee though. You know, coffee to me, like a nice cup of coffee is like refined and like kind of balanced. Whereas like we're just like extreme. You know,
Gas station coffee is not refined. We're
True.
sort of like
Trash
burnt
coffee.
coffee,
Yeah.
burnt trash station
So,
coffee.
Coffee
We're-
has been out for
we're-
24 hours.
Yeah, we're a burnt coffee from Wawa, which
Yeah.
is a New Jersey kind of like convenience store chain. So Wawa coffee with a little bit of Jim Beam.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some
Actually,
a road soda.
a road soda or even a little bit of like I don't know.
It's
Just
like
fuck it, wine. Just put wine in your coffee. It's like weird.
it's like a Pepsi, and then you just dump a bunch of Jack Daniels in it. It's just like
Pepsi and Jack Daniels.
Okay. So, anything do you want to add about this new album for the audience?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're really excited for people to hear it. You know, we've been working on it for a long time, and you know, we're just really jazzed to get it out there and start playing shows again, and yeah, and then writing the next one.
Okay.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
kind of shit.
Okay, now until here we'll speak about, or we spoke about the album, the cover, the feelings we taste hearing about the music of the Replicant. So now we will speak about other matters into the heavy metal world, like underground scene, mainstream bands, digital platforms, new heroes of music, and more things in this kind of stuff, because the heavy metal grow ups every day with new representation, with new forms of hearing music. So we're now here in Latin America, the most important thing for our underground banger is like collect like vinyls and tapes. When this banger collect vinyl and tapes, everyone said, yeah, that's some banger, a real banger. So, but when other people thinks that I have CDs, yeah, you are just a poser. You're like a poser. Yeah, digital and CDs for posers. The real metal is hearing and vinyl and tape. So, what do you think about the matters? Why the fans stick to these underground metal clubs, and why?
Well, I mean, like over here we have a lot of vinyl and tapes and stuff like that flies off merch tables.
Yeah.
People love that stuff. And but I think like I don't think I think people just, we use a lot of streaming here too. I mean, like I don't know, a lot of people are actually like buying CDs and stuff, but at the same time, people just want to support music. So they'll buy CDs, they'll buy shirts, a lot of shirts, they'll buy stuff like that. But I mean, like, honestly, like there's like no judgment of what you buy as long as you support the band. So people have a digital collection. Probably, I'm not in anybody's house like that, but probably they have no CDs, no vinyl, no tapes, but their phone is full of music, and they're just into it that way. Because I mean, I think there's a lot of cross pollination of fandom, because there's people that love death metal and black metal and stuff, but they also love EDM and pop music, and they're listening to everything in hip hop, and everybody loves everything. So I mean, like, just people, I feel like here people just like a lot of different things at once. So, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think vinyl was, has been making a big comeback because the medium, at least for me, it's like I love having a record because if I'm just gonna sit down and listen to it, it's like that's what I'm doing, It's not like I'm gonna sit down and like listen to the album and that's all I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna like I'm not gonna be on my phone, I'm not gonna do this, I'm not gonna be like listening to music while I'm driving or walking. It's like I'm gonna sit down, put on a record, and that's it. I'm just listening to the music, right? So it's like a nice way to like slow down, like hear the whole record in its entirety, like how it was, meant to be listened to from start to back. And just kind of like really like you really like let it hit you, right? And again, it's like, it's like nice having the big artwork and the packaging, and like a lot of like record labels, like, Transcending Obscurity are doing like cool like splatter. So like you get like the vinyl that has like all the colors and it just looks awesome. The presentation's awesome, right? So it's like Mike said, it's like a way to help out the band. Even like I have a lot of friends and people who who love music that don't even have a record player, but they'll buy vinyl to support the band, and because it's like an art, it's a piece of art. So and the cassettes too, it's like people love cassettes. It's like they're huge. Like we did a 4-way split last year called Chasm of Aeons with Inoculation, Cryptic Shift, and Astral Tomb. And the Desert Wasteland Productions put it out, and then Blood Chasm, no,
Blood Harvest.
Blood Harvest Records in Sweden, they did another like hundreds. So like there was like hundreds of tapes, and people were loving it, and they were just buying the tapes. So it's like it's awesome. It's just like another way to like help support a band, where it's like you can listen to it on Spotify, but then it's like, all right, I'll toss you $5 too, because I really appreciate it and I want you to keep doing more stuff. So it's pretty cool.
Okay. Well, as both said that about the digital platforms now, everyone's hear the music now. No, not everyone's. Mostly the people from 15, 14, 30 years old listen the digital platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, etc., etc. So, but and they love to do their playlist. So with 1, 2, 3, or maximum 4 of an album. So what do you think about the albums doesn't have the same impact compared to the 80s and 90s? And what does one needs to do to improve the listeners of all songs in an album?
Well, I mean, that just comes down to like whatever the popular medium is, and then you creating art for that medium, right? Because like the only reason the Beatles wrote great albums and the Stones and all of those bands of the era was because that was the latest medium, right? So now the medium has changed to like singles, playlists, and people still listen to albums. Like when we recorded this, it's intended to be listened to as an album, but people are going to go through and they're going to find maybe they come up with their own order for the tunes that they like better. So and on the one hand, like what we're doing is giving people more inputs. They can interpret it however they want, right? Like they can have as many songs on it or as few songs as they want, but it becomes a more personalized experience,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like James said, we wrote this album to be listened to in this order, in this way. I mean, obviously we're all influenced by the stuff from the 80s and all that stuff and beyond. But yeah, there's albums we listen to that can't even fit on a vinyl. It's like people are writing hour-long, 70-minute long albums, like shit. Like I mean, like you look at Fear Factory, Soul of a New Machine. There's like 17 songs on that shit, and it's just like, how is this gonna fit on anything as CDs, bro? It's a CD,
right?
But
yeah,
I mean, like, and right now, like, I feel like not that I'm shitting on anybody, but it's like people have their attention spans are being grabbed at every second. So I mean, I don't blame musicians for wanting to write something shorter. Something that just gets a single or whatever, just put it out there. Fuck it. Just an EP, anything. Just get people to listen and be active, like, because there's so many bands and so many good bands and artists and so much access to it that people are just trying to like grab your attention at all times. So I love we all love like a whole album. I mean, that's the love that goes into it. We want to write a record, make a statement with it, but it's like like we said before, we write it for us, for ourselves. But if somebody takes meaning out of it for themselves, that's sick, good for them. But I mean, I don't blame it for just being, oh, Ecto Skull, just on a playlist. That's all you heard. And it's like, all right, fuck it, you heard that, you heard a song.
Right.
Sick.
Like,
But fuck yeah.
Okay, we're very close. We are very close to end this interview. So now into this dissonant and technical subject into the death metal style, there are three bands that started this journey in the 90s with these certain albums that start this movement. So therefore, what do you think of these productions? Or how do you describe how are you describe these ones? Demolik, Nesfiti, as you said, Nespite, as you said in the first question, Gorguts, Obscura. This is a great album for everyone.
Yes.
And really, this is last 5 years, I hear a lot bands, Cryptic Shift, the Ceolatry, Time Goal, that has a lot of influence. A band like Time Goal with the demos area influence a lot of bands. That's amazing because they never release an album, an EP, just demos. So what do you think about these three albums, specific by each one?
Yeah, I mean, all of them are three of my favorite albums. So I mean, yeah, it's like I mean, I think they're amazing. The Demolish record especially is because that was the only thing they ever did. So it's like, you know, their first album is considered one of the most, you know, classic albums of the genre, you know, and they were just like a bunch of like young 20-year-olds, and they had no idea what they were doing, you know, so it's amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think the records sound timeless, you know, they sound exactly as they should. I can't imagine them any other way. You know, I love it that they just went in there and they did it and they played it to the best that they could. And there's, you know, there's not obviously a lot of like punching in, and it's not overproduced, and it's not like quantized, and it's like, that's like, you know, exactly how it should sound, you know, and it's awesome. And, you know, Obscura is an amazing album. It's like my favorite album of all time. I've listened to it probably like a million times from start to back. You know, Steve Hurdle, the other guitar player who passed away, who's on that album, is like my like biggest influence, really. Like his other band, like Mike said, Negativa, you know, and his band before he was in Gorguts, Purulence, are like huge like influences on how I play guitar. So it's like, I think that record is like light years ahead of its time. Even still, like there's no album that sounds like it. I don't think there ever will be. You know, it's just like that perfect moment in time. Yeah, and then the Time Ghoul stuff is awesome. I mean, when I first a friend of mine bought me that CD when they reissued all the demos like years ago, and I listened to it and I thought the chanting was like so goofy, and now I'm like obsessed with it. I think it's amazing. And now you hear bands like a lot of doing that same, like that band Cathilist, you know, they have like the chanting, and you know, like as soon as you hear the chanting, you're like, oh, it's Time Ghoul, you know, it's like, who else did that? And they, again, like I really like love the atmosphere that they brought, like a lot of single notes, a lot of space, like on the last record or the last song on our new record, like I kind of had that Time Ghoul influence where it's like a lot of like arpeggios, just single notes, just like being held out for a long period of time to kind of create that atmosphere, that space. I think they did that amazingly well. And like, again, like no one was doing that at the time. Yeah, so I mean, it's awesome. Those are three amazing records, three big albums for us. And again, like, you know, those are, yeah, they're not gonna be tops.
Yeah, Replicant approved.
well. Oh,
I would say though that dissonant metal like that really started with Voivod.
Yeah.
So with like the Killing Technology record, I think that is like the very first like dissonant. Obviously, it's not death metal, but it's like that's what spawned all of the dissonant death metal. Like, you know, being from like Quebec, you know, Gorguts were obviously a little younger than the Voivod guys, but it's like, I know, like, I mean, I don't know for a fact, but like, I know, like, in my heart, it's like Steve and Luke must have heard like Piggy playing guitar, and they're like, oh my God, like, you could play the guitar this way. I never thought about that before. So I will add that I think Voivod is the originator of the, you know, this kind of dissonant death metal style.
Okay, okay. Well, people from Replicant, the sad times arrive at this interview. I hope you enjoyed this one as I did. Really, really appreciate for this opportunity to give me the do the interview. Thank you very much for your time. This new album is very, very awesome. I hear it completely many times, and I did my pre-order from Transcending Obscurity Records. So, and I hope I can see you and a probably tour here in Latin America and during the next years. Who knows? Who knows? Take care during this pandemic, and our best wishes from all the staff of Dargetic.com. Any last words for your fans or new fans in Latin America and Dargetic readers?
Well, hopefully see you guys soon. That would be really sick to come hang out with you guys down there and fucking headbang and get drunk and
Food and have a good time.
Yeah. But yeah, man, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. We had a lot of fun talking. Yeah, thanks so much for checking out the record. Really stoked you enjoy it. And yeah, hopefully we can all hang out again when the fucking world isn't so fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's great to meet you, Javier.
Yeah.
Thanks
Nice
so
to
much.
meet you. Nice
Have a
to meet
great
you
night,
guys.
bud.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
For me too. For me too.